This is me, Rowan Huang. It's my privilege again, honor and privilege to have Jason Amarante to come to my show, to share his wonderful and inspired journey with you all. And if you guys don't know who Jason Amarante is, he is very well accomplished guy. But then we are not going to spend that time. You can Google him in that regard. But we gonna try our best to squeeze every ounce of story out of him, like such an inspiring story that you guys really want to hear them. So sure enough, as usual, before we got Jason to talk, let's have Shirley. Shirley, thanks for connecting us. Can you share a little bit about Jason to our audience?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley. Thanks for having me back. So, in the last couple of weeks, we've discussed how to achieve work optional, fire, financial independence, retire early status, lead a transformative life by pursuing one's passions, believe in our worthiness for something truly great, and of course, find peace with past traumas. However, there is no one size fits all solution. So, we hope that by sharing the stories of multi talented individuals like Jason, you'll find inspiration and reignite your passion for life. So, if you're feeling stuck in your daily routine, burned out at your 9 to 5 job, or simply tired of feeling sick and tired, today's conversation is for you. You don't need to retreat to the mountains for meditation to find serenity and spiritual growth. No, that's not impractical for most of us. So we're so excited to introduce you all to someone who's found groundedness while living an authentic life as a Silicon Valley tech manager at Google and YouTube, a father, husband, son, friend, DJ, MC, and wellness coach.
I know reading the title gonna take our whole hour. So
Yeah, exactly. Jason is, like Rowan said, very accomplished, and his journey is a testament to the power of self-discovery and
yeah.
transformation. Like from a driven background in sports, academics,
Oh
music,
yeah.
and tech, he experienced burned out and saw deeper meaning like the rest of us, right? So through spiritual awakening and wellness practices, he shifted his focus from external accomplishments to internal
Internal.
growth.
Yeah, that's
So
so wonderful. I'm just like,
that's the
vibrating.
key.
Hey, if you
Yeah.
and me keep talking, Jason would just be quiet all the time. Okay, Jason, please share with a little bit, about you to my audience.
Yeah.
Let us know about you.
Yeah.
Yes.
First off, thanks for having me on, and much appreciation and gratitude, Shirley, for the
Mm.
lovely intro. There's always some bit of discomfort in hearing someone describe you and all of those things because you're like, I'm those things.
Mhm.
So yes, I am all of those things
Yes.
and so much more, and also none of those things when you strip them away, right, and get to the
Mm.
core essence. But we can definitely dig into that. I guess, you know, as a quick intro, just to add a little bit to that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, one of my north stars, or how I view myself today, is as a father to
Mm.
three, and that ultimately uh, serves to guide a lot of the decisions that I've made over the last few years.
Yeah.
Shifting my orientation around life has
Mm.
really been with that awareness of, yes, um, I want to raise my level of consciousness and awareness, and how I live, and how I show up for others. And also, I've got these three little ones now that I'm modeling this behavior for, and I want to show them, hey, this is a way to be in the world.
Oh, so
And so
precious.
it feels like a much deeper, bigger purpose and
Yeah.
bigger meaning to do this work with them in mind. So yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of like, double
Uh,
click on the fatherhood thing because that's
yeah.
been a big motivator for me.
Well, it
That's
is. I
beautiful.
mean, most of my audience know I start my channel, do just about everything for my kids. So, it's so, touching to hear that. I think the end goal is we want a better world. It's not just
Yeah.
our kids. We want to be able to contribute as much as we can to help our kids and maybe their friends, or, eventually bring a better world together. But, people forget about one thing. In order to reach a better world, you actually have to experience struggle,
Right.
right? So, Jason, I'm not gonna go drill into it, but I'm just roughly introduce that to our audience a little bit. You actually come from an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
You
Immigrant
immigrant.
family.
Like,
Yeah.
can you briefly telling us or share with us how it was like to be a son of an immigrant from a foreign country? and then how you come up to this, like, quite accomplished. Obviously everybody envy you, like, you're the immigrant, like, and now you are like, oh my god, so accomplished, everybody want a piece of you. Just share a little bit of that with us if you don't mind.
For sure. I'm not so sure everyone wants a piece of me. However, no, the foundation, right? The
Yeah,
upbringing, it was so pivotal and foundational to my initial orientation, right? And
yeah,
I'll explain. My parents are both immigrants
yeah.
from the Azores Islands in Portugal.
Okay.
They grew up very humble beginnings. They grew up on farms. Very
Mm-hmm.
hardworking people, very
Mm-hmm.
driven people. These are
Okay.
folks that lived with very little. They grew everything they ate. They made their own clothes. Those islands were oftentimes subject to volcanic eruptions and
Oh
earthquakes and
wow.
famine and crop
Yeah, yeah,
disease. So they were very hardened by that.
yeah,
Um, However, they looked at America and through some chain migration of ancestral generations, they thought,
yeah,
oh, there's a lot of opportunity there, so we want to head there. And
yeah.
so both of my parents separately ended up here in California.
Okay.
Uh, at that time, the agriculture and the dairy businesses were really what were bringing in those
Mm-hmm.
Portuguese people from the
Okay.
islands, and they settled here and they established roots. I was the first one in my immediate family
Yeah,
born
yeah,
in the States, grew
yeah,
up here, but we were very much like the way we were raised was with a lot of those old world
yeah.
values, like
Yes.
discipline and respect,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
church. The Catholic Church was important. The work ethic, hard work, like above everything. And I
Yeah,
think from an early age, being the oldest son, the firstborn son, I
yeah.
took a lot of that to heart. I absorbed a lot of that,
Yeah.
and I lived a lot of that
Okay.
through academics and those early years in my professional life. I was
Hmm.
really oriented around achievement and accomplishment,
And
and a lot of
hardworking.
that came, yes, hardworking, and a lot of
Hardworking.
that came from
Yeah.
feeling responsible and the obligation for my
Oh.
parents. Yeah.
So you would say, like, growing up with like this kind of setting, which I would say very traditional, very old school, just
Yeah.
hardworking, save your money, then you are going to get what you are getting. Do you find any struggle like during your upbringing, like may not be, internally, like to your family, but like living up, growing up, do you find, either people making fun of you, or are you finding it difficult to, do certain thing or accomplish certain things?
You know, I think all right, because all of those things I listed, I
Mm-hmm.
very
Yeah.
much view as foundational strengths, right?
Yes.
But but any strength, if you dial it up too far, can
Yeah.
also become a weakness. And so I would say that each of those
Yeah.
attributes or strengths
Yeah.
has its shadow side.
Yes.
And to answer your question, um, yes, it sort of created a child who was, I don't want to say cold blooded and methodical, but
Mm,
yeah, very much maybe not as present or aware of what I was
mm.
pursuing, like sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
into like a default setting
Yeah.
of
Risk
what,
calculating.
yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like what my obligation was, like
Yeah.
to follow that path and do all of the things and the
Yeah.
steps and accomplish all of the milestones
Yeah.
without really checking in with my heart, with my spirit,
Oh,
and what that was
yeah.
calling.
Well, the reason I'm asking you to share a little bit of that is because what I realized that nowadays young people or teenager or youth, they they basically living that mode without realize they're living that mode.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like they living under someone's expectation, either, dad, mom, society, or anything like that, and then they have this build up, like you just have to hard work and do this, and then yeah, when they are pursuing it, they feel struggle within themselves,
Yeah.
right? And then that's most likely hit them to depression or things like that, or they feel very lost and confused. Like I have done everything right,
Right.
and why am I not happy? And then from what I can see of you, I mean, you obviously you've been pursuing accomplishment, and then you are so success in your field and all that. And you know, why a lot of people will view whatever Jason you're doing, come on, you make a name like for yourself, and then you obviously, it's quite successful. Like
Mhm.
you living a happy life. But then it didn't work that way, does it, Jason?
Right. And I think, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, and
Yeah.
just a quick caveat. Now I realize that this life was never intended to be perfect and smooth
Yeah.
and linear at all, because where's the fun in that? Where's the struggle? Where's the growth and the transformation
Yeah.
in that? And so now I can look back and go, okay, all of those things were sort of leading me to that inflection point.
Yes.
And to expand on that, I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the energies that I very much embodied along that way in the pursuit of accomplishment was this need to be perfect and perfectionism, right? And feeling like anything less than perfect
Yeah.
was failure. And how do you experience that in the body? Well, you start to feel anxious. You start to feel stressed. And so there was always that sort of underlying. And I think that's pretty common. I think a lot of the youth today can say that they feel
Yeah.
some level of anxiety and uncertainty and
Yeah.
yeah, those feelings of failure and whatnot.
Yeah. I hear commonly heard from the youth is they feel like they're never good enough. They're never good enough for their parent. They're never good enough for their boss. They're never good enough for their teacher and all that. So would you say that's very similar to basically what you're experiencing, because you're expecting perfect, and it doesn't matter how good you do, it just seems like it's never perfect enough for you, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes to all of that. And I think again,
Yeah.
it's clearer now that I can look back in hindsight and say that what was lacking for me was a true understanding of self, and along with that, self acceptance and self love. And it wasn't until I really started to invest, and that came by way of hitting a wall, and we can talk about what that felt like. But it wasn't until I was sort of shooken from that slumber, that default mode, that I realized, hey, I'm not living as my authentic self. I haven't accepted myself. I haven't forgiven myself for transgressions. And because of all of that, I don't feel love for myself. And if you don't love yourself unconditionally, it is hard to give that love to others, to your family, to your neighbor, to your community, to all of humanity. And I think that's what a lot of us as human beings struggle with today. Until we accept and love ourselves, there will always be this tension, this conflict, this distortion amongst us.
Yeah, no, the biggest question I usually have is, it's not like they don't want to love themselves, so they simply don't know how.
Right.
So, Jason, you have such an inspiring story. The reason I want to say that is you were, or you are still, were in a position that where everybody works so hard to reach. And yet something happened, right? I want you to, if you don't mind, share a little bit of that. Something must happen to make you decide to quit that, let go of that.
Right.
And then come back from the beginning. Why everybody thinking, why you were you were that place that everybody want to get to,
Right.
but why would you drop that? Like, what
Right.
happened? Why would you drop that? Right? And then if you drop that, does that mean my future is gonna be like start from the beginning, or I'm gonna be ground zero? Like, people are scared. You actually went through a journey. Everybody is scared to even touch it. You have everything, and then you want to start beginning. Why? Right? So share a little bit of that, if you don't mind, with us. Like, what made you come up with that decision to, what, I'm gonna start over.
Right. And it very much felt like that. Like, I think in the chats I've had with Shirley, for instance, I've referred to this time period as, metamorphosis, or, as using this sort of caterpillar as a metaphor, entering the cocoon stage to then hopefully come out like a butterfly. And
Okay.
I'll explain.
Yes.
Yeah. In all of the years of sort of chasing the shiny thing, right? Like, in pursuit of accomplishment, of outcome, of getting the good grade, getting the best job, buying the house, like achieving status, achieving salary level, all of that stuff that's very physical, material, right?
Yeah.
In the pursuit of that, on the surface, if you were to look and on paper, you'd say, oh, yeah, he does. He's got it all. He's holding it all together. Like, wow, incredible. How is he doing that?
Yeah.
Um, and in early 2021, that's when things came to a head for me, and that's when I hit, what I describe as a major burnout, or what I
Uh-huh.
thought was burnout initially, and then I
Yeah.
realized, hey, this is a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and what that felt like to me, it manifested itself physically in the
Hmm.
beginning.
Okay.
And so looking back, I feel like maybe the universe, God, was whispering to me, but I wasn't listening. And so something needed to completely, like, almost like a sucker punch, like
Yeah. Yeah.
knock
Yeah.
me. Again, I
So,
say, wake me
yeah.
from the
Yeah.
slumber.
So
And that
what
was
actually
like,
happened though? Like you got sick, or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Okay.
So I started to experience like severe, like very intense chest pains
Oh
where I
no.
thought I was having like heart attack.
Oh
Um,
no. Yeah.
and chest pains for days, for weeks. I had trips to the emergency room. I had
Yeah.
doctors running tests. I was certain something was wrong with me physically,
Yeah.
stomach ailments. I thought I had an ulcer. I couldn't sleep. And things
Oh.
started to unravel. So the
Oh
physical
wow.
pain, the
Yeah.
physical pain created like a stress response,
Hmm.
anxiety,
Yeah.
confusion. And so I decided to step away from work. I took some leave at that time, and it was like medical leave in the beginning.
Yeah.
And weeks into all of the tests, they weren't finding anything.
Oh
And I'm
my.
like, I'm at a loss of words. I'm like, I'm feeling these sensations. Like physiologically, I know something is wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're not finding anything. And finally, my doctor one day said, hey, have you considered that maybe this is all sort of stress um, driven?
No
And it
way.
wasn't until that moment, like, I didn't realize that I was even stressed before that. I just had gotten so acclimated to working and living in a stressful manner that it felt like baseline.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
when he said that, I was like, a light bulb went off. Like, oh, okay, I'm what stress? I'm doing too much. All right, let's take a break.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
in the beginning, it was all about self-preservation. Like, how can I make this pain
Go
stop?
away. How can I stop this pain? Yeah.
It was resistance. Like, how can I solve this problem as quickly as possible?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let
But
me stop.
it's amazing you share that story, because throughout the time I heard a lot of people talking about they have this physical pain. It's nothing to do with stress, nothing to do with anything else. I gotta check with doctor. I gotta check with doctor. And then, I heard so many times they talk about doctor cannot find anything wrong.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
And then they're sitting at home. I don't understand where this pain come from. I don't understand where this thing come from. Right. And then you were saying somehow you managed to simply accept it could be connected with the stress. Is
Yeah.
it because you have already tried everything possible?
I tried the physical things. So the interesting thing is when I
Mm.
stepped away from work,
Yeah.
um, what intuitively came to me is you
Yeah.
need to do less. And
Yes.
less meant, all right, I'm not going to work the tech job for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go DJ
Yeah.
events, right? Because I had a pretty busy
Yeah. Yeah.
DJ business at that time. I'm not going to hang out with friends. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm just going,
Wow.
what felt right to me
Yeah.
was I'm going to sit in solitude in my backyard. I have this massive pine tree in the back. And all I wanted to do for weeks was
Hmm.
sit in quiet with myself.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
was like the first time in my life that I truly started to have conversation with self,
Oh.
because rid yourself of the distraction. You rid yourself of all of the things out, the external
Yeah.
stimulus.
Yeah.
I was left with just my inner dialogue. Um,
Yeah, I think everybody want to know, like, Jason, what conversation do you have? Like, like, what is one conversation that you have that really hit home, and then like that's it,
it was
that's
so
it.
it was so wild because
Yeah.
what started as like I'm processing my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
then evolved to what felt like a conversation with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
divine, with a
Yeah.
with spirit. guides, with ancestors, with God. I felt like at that time I started to hear and receive messages,
Yeah.
signs, signals, synchronicities. Like I
Yeah.
was finally open and my satellites were up and the universe was giving me messages on here's something you may not know about yourself. Here
Oh,
it was, and in the beginning it was
yeah.
so painful. I don't want to make it seem like it was this beautiful Disney
Yeah.
moment. Like, it was utterly painful. It was dark. It was heavy.
Yeah.
Excruciating.
I can
Wasn't
imagine that.
eating. I
Yeah.
wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
struggling. Everybody, my
Yes.
aunts were coming over to pray for me. Nobody knew what was wrong. I didn't have a vocabulary yet
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
all happening in real time.
Wow. Yeah.
But through those weeks, through those months,
Yes.
and sort of, I guess, the blessing of the pandemic for me was there was no expectation for me to be going anywhere. I truly
Oh,
could
yeah.
sit
Yeah.
alone in my backyard
Yeah. Yeah.
and take long walks. And then these messages started to come through. And it was stuff around, you've been chasing accomplishment
Oh, yeah.
all of this time. Wonderful.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
it's not who you are. This is not the end goal. This is not the purpose of life to accomplish.
Whoa. I think you just spoke a lot of everybody internal conversation. You literally just voice it out for everyone right here. Yes.
Was this when you discover your passion
Yeah.
for mentoring and coaching for
Yes.
people and being of service?
Would you say this is a
Yes.
tipping point and all that?
Yeah, yes, because as those messages started to come through, it was this reorientation away from accomplishment and more towards process.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like balance. Okay, I was living very much in this masculine yang energy, and I needed to shift to incorporate more feminine yin energy, like to be about process. And what process meant to me was abundance, love. You don't need to chase. You don't need to seek.
Yes.
You're not living in a place of scarcity, of needing more. You have everything.
Yeah.
You have everything within. Oh, it's all here. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And slowly it was like more appreciation of self, more acceptance of self, more forgiveness of self, more love of self. And through that, surely, like, is when I started to think, wow, okay, this is a gift. It started to feel different. Now, instead of it feeling dark and heavy and struggle, it felt like, I am ready to share this with others. I'm ready to pay this forward. It felt like a renewed sense of self and a sense of service. Yes.
So you're a little bit disoriented, and then you slowly find yourself. And when you feel a little bit grounded, you decide to pay forward. Like, you know what? Let me see what I can do as my service to help others.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful. Like, yes.
It was beautiful. It truly felt beautiful, Rowan. Like, my heart was open. And now that my heart was open, it was like, what's there? Like, what are those messages? Even going back to a child, like being a child, like, what was there already that maybe you over time forgot about or ignored, or for whatever reason? It was like circling back to self. It was a remembering of self and of who I am.
Yeah.
And from there, like, you can imagine, like, there was this openness and curiosity to explore. Okay. In this wellness space, like holistically, like, what can I do for myself? What can I experience? And also, what can I share with others?
Yes.
And that's like the floodgates open to, let me learn about coaching.
Yes.
Let me crystallize this love I have for mentoring others. Let me walk this path of wellness and discover, things like acupuncture for the first time, things like working with a therapist for the first time, things like, qigong exercises,
Oh,
or
wow.
Eastern medicines and
Yeah.
philosophies, and reading and consuming this type of wisdom, and things like getting into cold immersion, and taking ice baths and going
Oh,
on these
I'm
journeys,
gonna talk
right?
about that later. But then now I don't want to
Yeah.
draw, some people's attention. I'm still gonna talk about it.
But
But
all
yeah,
of that, all of that started to be like it. I became aware of that. All of that stuff was out there again. This abundant mindset of you have everything you need. Everything exists and is available, and you can tap into if you're just willing to be open and step into the unknown.
Wow.
And so it was with that, like, that shift of, I will surrender to this. I will stop fighting and trying to fix myself. I will just surrender and be open and see where this river takes me.
Oh,
How much of that was driven by fear, if you don't mind me asking? Burned out, I understand, struggle, resistance, disorientation. I get all that, right? But how much of that was driven by fear? If I don't try something else, I won't make it. Or,
yeah. Great question. Like, in the beginning, it was all fear. Like, in the beginning, it was, make this stop. How can I make it stop as quickly as possible and get back to my life that I'm accustomed to?
Right.
Like,
which everybody would think, yes.
Yeah. Right, because it's the familiar. Like, you want to run back to the familiar. So the way I put it is this, like, that fear. So the more I resisted, the more those physical manifestations persisted. The more I resist, the more it persists.
Yes.
But the more I allowed myself to feel, the more quickly I began to heal. And it's helpful that those two things rhyme. It's like, if what you resist will persist, what you feel, you can heal. And so as I started to actually allow myself to feel for the first time, that's when the fear started to dissipate and dissolve.
Yeah. Would you say, like, because obviously from what we understand, that when you start paying forward, you start learning the school, like learning the classes, learning qigong, learning this, because with the intention that one day, if I can somehow figure this out, I want to be able to help people who also suffer what I was going through, right? And would you say this whole journey is actually also helping you to slowly grounding yourself? Just, every time I know a little bit more information, evaluate a little bit more. I learn a little bit more, evaluate a little bit more. So eventually I start to figure out who I am, what I am, and then what I can do as a service.
Right.
And
to your point, like, little by little, it's not overnight. There wasn't a single aha moment. It was this day by day, incremental, like, it truly felt like rebuilding in a way. From the foundation up. Like, this realization that we are multi-dimensional. We are mind, we are body, we are spirit. Like, we are all of these things. And if you are out of balance on any of those, the whole thing feels like it's on shaky ground. And I had spent far too much time focused on the physical aspect of self. And I really needed to invest. When I started to invest in the mental, emotional, spiritual components of self, listening to heart, then from the ground floor up, it started to feel
solid.
It started to feel solid. And then from there, you can now move again in the physical world with purpose and understanding and clarity and alignment. Like, now I can return back to work with a different energy, a different attitude. And that was, like, obvious and felt by others right away. Like, all right, I'm not driving so hard to launch these products and these big project launches
or event.
Now I'm showing up and I'm genuinely authentic, being more vulnerable, showing more compassion and empathy. Like, it became about the process, not launching the product, but what happens before that? Oh, we're working together. Like, there's like a human element here. How can I support you and lift you up? And like, what can I give to you? And then we will accomplish what we want to as a byproduct, because I'm like truly there for you in that moment at work.
Yeah.
So
Oh
The
my.
journey is the destination. Is that what you're
Yeah.
trying to say, Jason?
Oh, it's so beautiful. This is what I do, right? This is so beautiful, but I'm gonna really crush it. So is that why you go to the ice bath? Just like shrink it down. Oh my God, you spend too much. I'm gonna shrink it all back in.
you know what?
Sorry. No, I'm not totally out of
I
place.
know- that is so
Ice
great.
bath. Ice
You,
bath.
you know
Seriously.
what the ice bath? So okay, what the ice bath boils. Sure, there's tons of physiological
Yeah.
benefits to cold immersion.
Yes.
To
I'm
like,
gonna let people have a picture of it, just so in case they think I'm just making it up.
Tell
It's
us
so
the
not like
journey, please.
little. I
Yeah.
want every detail. Like, look at this. It's not just ice. It's ice bath and with all the snow around. Like, it's like polar bear swings already not a thing. All right, guys.
right,
Ice bath.
this. Okay, cold immersion found me. Okay,
Yeah.
and what I like to say is that this is one of those times where the YouTube algorithm got it right. Like,
Really?
I was on YouTube one day. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a long story shorter.
Okay.
I was on YouTube one day while I'm going through the thick of the transformation and the struggle, and a video pops up, and it's of someone named. His nickname is the Iceman. His
Yeah.
name is Wim Hof.
Yeah.
He's rather famous in certain circles, but he has set all of these Guinness World Records. He's from the Netherlands,
Yeah.
and he just seemed like, in the video I watch, he's taking a group of people into the frozen rivers.
Group of people.
They're jumped, and they don't want to go into the water, but through the power of like
Yeah.
thought and word and encouragement and bringing that tribe together, and Wim Hof setting the example, he gets this group
Yeah.
to do all of these crazy things. They're going
Really?
into the icy rivers, they're jumping off waterfalls, they're hiking up mountains in
Bare
board
feet?
shorts with, like they're going barefoot, they have no shirts on, they're going up mountainsides. And I tell you, I am not exaggerating, there was something in my heart that was like, you will do that one day. It scared the know what out of me,
Really?
but I saw myself there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will do that. And
Yeah.
fast forward 1 year, I had the opportunity to go, and I met up with Wim and this group of other folks who were into
Okay.
wellness
Yeah.
in Western Poland in the middle of winter. I mean, it was beautiful, serene. And that week was one of the most powerful weeks of my life.
Really?
Not only do you forge these really intense like bonds and relationships with the people that you're there with, but through the power of breath. And we did these really long breath work sessions where they became almost psychedelic in nature, where you almost you would be so deep into the breath, just through the breath, that you would leave your body, you would travel time and space, you would have I would have conversations with ancestors, and then we would do the breath, and then we would do something really physically challenging in the snow, in the ice. We would go into these waters that were freezing, and there were moments where I would tell myself, I cannot do this. There's no way I can do this. And you're like, this is painful. Like my body is in pain. I must get out. That fight or flight would kick in. And yet through the group and through connecting with the breath and through connecting to the power of Wim and what his group of instructors were doing there, we were able to work through the pain and reframe our relationship with suffering. So the thing is, your body will feel the physical sensation of cold. It's going to feel painful.
Yeah.
However, the act of suffering is optional. And so what it all boils down to, and the reason why I still get into the ice water to this day, is when you go into the cold or step into the heat, like the sauna, it brings you back to the present moment. So when you're in cold water, freezing temperature water, you're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future.
So freaking cold.
You're present with yourself. And there's something beautiful about being present and connecting with the breath. But let me pause there, because this was so much fun. Um,
Yeah.
and just over the weekend, yeah, my wife and I and some good friends, we were doing cold plunges,
Yeah.
doing sauna because, yeah, it's an integral part of
Yeah.
wellness for me now. And it's all about coming back to the present and
Oh my.
just invigorating that life force, that energy that's within all of us.
Wow. So well, you make it sound less painful through your work.
It's,
I would say that's not something I would try, but there is 1 second I was like, wow, huh? Maybe. There's a maybe.
you you can do it, Rowan. Like the if there was like a key lesson as I flew
Yeah.
back from Poland and I had all this gratitude in my heart, and
Yeah.
what kept kind of washing over me was this sense of like we are capable of so much more
Yes.
than we realize. And
Yeah.
it's not about, again, the accomplishment, but
Yeah.
like you can step into the unknown, you can step into uncertainty, you can
Mhm.
surrender to something that feels big and daunting and
Yeah.
frightening, and you can get through it and come out the other side stronger and more
Oh,
confident in yourself.
yeah.
And that's what the ice did for me on that trip.
Well, it's so. Whew.
Yeah.
Now he's really trying to sell it, but I didn't know. I think you work for Wim. That's Vin. So, but anyway, oh well, let me think about it. It just looked very cold to me right now.
And you know,
Yeah,
the cold is
yeah,
one of those things. It's very
yeah,
objective. It's always
yeah,
cold.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah,
never gets easier. It's just as hard the 10th time as the first time.
yeah,
It's just that you become better equipped to
yeah,
handle the
yeah.
stress the 10th time.
My I
You
would
know?
say my similar experience is when I was in Yellowknife chasing the aurora light, and then we picked the wrong season, so it was the coldest time, so it's -50, almost -50. But then with the way my husband take picture, you cannot just go there for 30 minutes, dun dun dun, and then we go. We have to sit in the cold
Mhm.
for 4 hours. I think that night was 4 hours. And then that's the first time in my life I feel like cold. I thought this is the coldest we can get. It go colder as the time goes. So by the time I think 4 hours, I cannot feel my toe, I cannot feel my finger, I cannot feel any part of my body. And my brain constantly asking, am I still alive? I'm like chasing the northern light, but going back home realize nothing function in my body.
You have all 10 fingers still, right?
I couldn't even take picture. I couldn't take picture. I don't know how because the camera kind of froze.
Right.
It constantly
Oh,
shut down.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm like, it's so cold. Even my equipment are quitting on me. And what am I doing here? So I think I can see how people in this kind of environment start questioning life, start having internal conversation. Like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Northern Light is so beautiful. Most of people will have a cold for 30 minutes, but this is 4 hours, and I'm not even sure why I'm here for 4 hours.
But you have now you have that experience. You know that adventure.
Yeah,
You have that story now, and that's
yeah,
part of
yeah.
life's
But the
journey.
reason I have that story just so I can mock my husband.
Oh, wow. Well,
So
there's that too, right?
that's totally different story now. But anyway, yes, I would never forget about that experience. Yes.
Oh,
So, but then that's enough from me. But what I'm saying is by now, obviously, after you gone from that hustle life and having a breakdown and then
mm,
slowly discover yourself, and during the journey of you discover yourself, you probably learn how to do qigong, learn how to do mentor people. Believe it or not, even taking the ice bath at this point,
right.
people or average people start to believe, they just don't say it, but they start to believe, okay, Jason totally go cuckoo, like spiritual people do spiritual weirdo thing. He would never get back to the way. I mean, they will have a lot of internal conversation within themselves and believing, well, you have pursuing like totally opposite from what you used. You
Right.
used to make so much money, you used to have such a good job, and now you're just simply doing like meditation, talk to yourself. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are the attitude that I got a lot when I heard like those corporate people or, like highly accomplished people listen to the story like, yeah, I do yoga every day. Yeah, I meditate. Yes, I
Right.
take this class. And they're thinking, yeah, what good does that serve? But
Right.
The reason I love your story is you just literally proven there is a way out. That is, I'm not totally corporate. I'm doing this to help me ground myself. But then after I ground myself, I can put everything together and really rebuild a life as a very strong tree instead of before. If I focusing on business hustling, I may be a bamboo. I don't know, whatever. Right. So
You
like, can
know,
you share that with us? Yes.
yeah, you know what's interesting about that? Because again, this is all happening in real time,
Yeah.
right? Yes, all of these things, I've gotten through them.
Yeah.
However, I'm still very much surrendering to where this river is taking me. And
Mm,
yes, I am still, as of this moment, I'm still operating in the corporate
yeah.
space and holding down a pretty demanding, taxing job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, that perspective, that orientation, that way of being is helping me to navigate the tough waters. So again,
Mm,
this is shifting and evolving in real time.
yeah.
And I know as of right now, and one of the reasons, so I put up this background of the autumn leaves, right? Because we are entering
Yeah.
into fall season.
Yeah.
And also I like to look at my life. Like
Yeah.
I'm starting the second half of my life now, and it very much feels like at the moment I am also shifting into a fall season. And what that means to me is there are some things that have been blooming on my tree of life that have been incredible and I'm grateful for. And they've
Mm,
driven me and they've fed me and literally and energetically. And yet some of those leaves are starting to change color. And it's a really beautiful view. And also there's this knowing that some of those leaves will fall from the
yeah.
tree. And it's not to be looked at with like this feeling of loss or regret or
Yeah.
the tree doesn't ask why the leaves fall in the fall. It's
Yeah.
just a beautiful process of life, and there's this like rejuvenation in the
Yeah.
following spring. And
Yes.
so I'm very much using this symbol, this imagery, this metaphor as where I am in life. In I'm processing sort of the things that no longer serve me, no longer align with my higher self, to connect it back. Shirley, we talked about Ram Dass before the call. Like this is a suit I have been wearing, uh, and has fit me well for many years, and it was a beautiful suit. And yet, perhaps the suit no longer fits me. Am I willing to sort of take it off, hang it up, and like find a new suit to wear? And
Yeah.
so this is the process of me doing this right now in
Mhm.
real time. And to your question about well, how does the world react to somebody who's sort of walking a more spiritual path?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It can be tough in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was tough for me because I felt like, well, I'm either fully in the physical material
Yeah.
or I'm fully in the spiritual. Like the two cannot exist together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now where I've arrived is you cannot operate, exist in either one. They are not
Hmm.
opposite
Yeah.
poles. They are all
Same.
part of this full
Yeah.
spectrum. And
Yeah.
and we are constantly toggling throughout the day between the spiritual,
Yeah.
between the physical material. And
Yes.
that is what this existence is.
Yeah.
Like, can you stay aware of when you're sort of over indexing on one or the other too far? No, I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
I can't just retire to a mountainside and
Yeah.
meditate.
Yeah.
That is not what
Yeah.
spirituality is.
That's right.
No.
To me,
No.
is can I incorporate this understanding of self, this connection to God,
Yeah.
in my everyday material life that's challenging and very heavy and dense?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is true, like spiritual life is the struggles, the mistakes. Can I just kind of like look at it and again feel
Yeah.
compassion for self and acceptance and love and all that stuff as I make those
Yeah.
mistakes
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
life?
But I was thinking like most of people when they view like material world and spiritual world, they're like polar opposite, right? So
Yeah.
when you already like you are life so hard to reach to whatever people wanted. And now when people are viewing you doing all the spiritual work, seems like you're abandoning. You are just telling us we don't have to pick one or the other. We just simply have to focus on how to combine them together, right?
Right. Like
Right.
integrate, right?
Yeah,
True
yeah, yeah.
integration. And that takes time.
That does
That's a
take time.
constant
Can
process.
can
So
I can I just
yeah,
add real quick? So
Yeah.
one thing that Jason did that's so amazing is he brought meditation and qigong to YouTube, to Google. He taught his colleagues, he hosted
meditation.
events, meditation and
No
qigong.
way.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a
Oh,
little bit about that
maybe
if you
maybe
can?
that's why their customer service is so much better
Well,
now.
I can't. Okay. Thanks, Shirley. I can't speak for the entire company. And I certainly
Yeah,
wasn't the first person to bring many of those practices
yeah,
into Google as a
yeah,
whole.
yeah,
However, what Shirley is describing, so for my immediate team of folks that were working
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
YouTube operations, yes, I very much became a well-being advocate, sort
yeah.
of propping up very grassroots style. Like as I started to be differently and use a
Yeah.
different vocabulary and language,
Mm-hmm.
people started to catch on to that a bit, and I felt like there was an openness to introduce them to more.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so what I
yeah.
started to do was, yeah, pulling together virtual wellness retreats for our team, pulling together a well-being newsletter and workshops that focused on
Wow.
things like mindfulness and
Yeah,
meditation and breath work and qigong, and
yeah,
started to integrate some of this stuff that I was passionate about
yeah, yeah,
into our team offsites. And what I realized is, like, there was an appetite there. There
Mm,
was an eagerness, an interest of many, like,
yeah,
to do more of this,
yeah,
because tech is hard. It is
yeah,
taxing.
yeah, yeah.
It requires a lot of you. And the last few years in the tech industry have been especially difficult with layoffs and downsizing and
Mm-hmm.
reorgs, uh, and Gen AI and
Yeah,
automation.
yeah, yeah,
So everybody's operating within that realm and that energy.
yeah.
There's been a lot of attrition. There's been a lot of mental health and medical leaves. And so, like, what I felt a responsibility, duty to do for my team was, let me just show you some of this stuff that's helped me so much.
Mm,
Like,
yeah,
not to force it on them, but here's what's available. Like, you opt into what works for you, right?
yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun building that and then scaling it to an even broader
Mm,
group. Now we're sort of rolling out a lot of this wellness stuff to a team of
yeah.
like 600. So it's not
Wow.
the whole company,
Yeah,
but as we say, like, little pebble in the pond, the ripples move
yeah.
can touch more
Well,
people.
it's so amazing. But wouldn't you say after you embed those kind of practice, you actually make the whole working tension kind of reduce a little bit? People learn the skill how to cope with their emotion and all that. So you will keep it more a balanced atmosphere,
I hope so.
right?
Yeah, that's the intention. And yeah, even if it just affects, if you even touch just one person through one of those workshops, it's worth the energy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
It's
just extra. It's like a side project, right? It's
yeah.
not part of my core
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. Of
Think
course. Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just amazing because like listening to your story, I realized that before you only goal oriented. I want to make this much money, or I want to, like one step to go next, right? Like, I want to get a very good job. I want to buy the house. I want to do this. I want to do that. One goal oriented. It seems like now to me, like you have a lot of forces driving you. Like it seems like you have a lot of, obviously integrity, and you have the back of your mind always want to serve others, and you have like your openness is willing to coach other, help people from their difficulties. It seems like throughout the struggle of learning and growing yourself, now where you are, you have all those instead of one thing that driven you. Now it seems like you have so much in you that is driven you. Like share a little bit of that with us. It just seems like now Jason is not just one popular person, but then if you would ever describe you and then sell you in a way like Jason, now what I have, integrity, and I love helping people. Like
Yeah.
what are you now, Jason?
A work in progress, first and foremost.
That's
Oh yeah, of
beautiful.
course we all are. Yes.
And there, we never arrive. There is no destination.
Yeah.
But the mantra, I'm looking up here at a post-it note that I have above
Yeah.
my laptop. It's
Yeah.
It's one I have to remind myself of constantly. Peace, not perfection. And Shirley, we've talked about that too. And what I seek is peace. And what I constantly have to remind myself is, because it is programmed at the, like, it's in the
cellular level,
operating system code of my every fiber and being, like, to pursue perfection, excellence. And so I have to constantly remind myself of, you are perfect in your imperfection, and nothing in nature, like a flower does not look at the next flower and go, oh, you're blooming better than I am.
You're bigger than me.
You know? And so just reminding me myself that I am nature. Can I remember how to be the way of the plants, the trees, the animals, the way of the seasons, right? But since you asked me, like, what as I go through this next round, right, of transformation and growth, is like, what is guiding me? What are my North Stars? Service towards others, for sure. Gratitude is foundational. It's something to anchor on no matter where you're shifting in life. I mentioned peace, right? For me, it's very much, can I find my place in this world where I truly feel free and at peace? And that's easier said than done. And I know it implies, like, I'm very fortunate to be able to be in a place where I can, like, anchor on freedom and anchor on peace. But those are the things, as I move into the future and what I align my time and energy around, it's like, will I have the freedom to be myself, to be authentic, to control my time and energy and how I spend those valuable resources? And does it bring me peace at the end of the day? Do I feel like I'm in alignment, like alignment with my higher self, serving some sort of higher purpose? All of those things, those energies are what I'm trying to, like.
I mean, people, I did not know you before, unfortunately, but then I would say who you are right now is very clear to us. You're a very authentic person, and then you're very open to share. And then, you always have this mindset, like, sure, if I can help you, I'll help you. Right. So it's very beautiful how over the struggle, and then you slowly find, I'm more than just what I used to be.
Right.
I'm focusing on money. That's all I have. If it crumble, that's the end of me. Now you are everything. That is, if this crumble, hey, I'm still this. Because what people do not know is, before you might just known for your material world, but now you're more than that. Now you are father, you are son, and I'm pretty sure you're a wonderful husband. Well, I don't know. Right. But then aside from that, I mean, you can still do your job before, you can still life coaching. And then why people believe, well, Jason, if you let that go, you have to start from ground zero, nothing, it's going to be tough. And at your age, whatever, you still manage to get yourself to the big corporate job. But then instead of just work 9 to 5, you're like, hey, let's, find a better way to work this.
Thank you for all of that. And you know what came to mind as you were sharing that, like, do you guys, you remember, Shirley, the Etch-a-Sketch toy?
Yes, of course.
The one you shake, like you draw with the dials. Rowan, I don't know if you also play with this.
We have that too,
There's an Etch-a-Sketch toy. I loved it as a kid. Yeah, you would spend a lot of time sort of drawing this thing, this masterpiece. But I remember the funnest part being when you shook it. Like, let me shake this thing, clear it away. No matter how much time I spent. Yeah, sure, you could hang that on the wall and admire it. But I found that the fun was in, let me shake this and start over. And yes, there is some element of, like, trepidation, like starting over, doing new things. Certainly at this age, you have responsibilities. I have 3 mouths to feed, right? The world is not getting any easier or cheaper. And yet, again, the need to surrender and trust, like that my heart is leading me in the right direction. And also this inclination to shake the Etch a Sketch and go, the fun is going to be in starting over.
The
Like
fun.
the
Yes.
fun, the challenge, the growth.
Yeah.
And again, this was never
Yeah.
meant to be easy. It was never meant to be
No.
perfect. And
Yeah.
so can I like really lean into that and embody
Yeah.
that? And hopefully I do. And then at the end of my life, I look back and go, okay, that was an interesting story. You
May I
know?
just say, may I just
Yeah.
say, Jason, we're also impressed by you, what you've accomplished, what you're continue to, do in your life. And it's so funny because what you shared is so in alignment with what Rowan has been sharing with her fans, is that
Yeah.
we're in the era of awareness, right? And once you have that awareness, then we can potentially, if you do the work, the curriculum, you can enter the era of awakening. And so she described it as like you're surfing, like you're rushing into the waves, right? And we talked about the fear, right? Like you just want to stand back and watch people surf because it's too scary, but you found the courage to dive into it, and you're surfing now, right? And it's a challenge, and people are still, like waiting by the shore, watching you, observing because they're too afraid. So I was wondering, because we have to wrap up soon, if there's anything you could share in terms of finding the courage, right, to overcome the fear. If you're stuck in a 9 to 5, you're not in a position of fire where you can leave, the corporate job because of the financial concerns or family obligations. What do you do? What do you do
What can
to
they
make?
do? What can they do to make them, like ease out or like embedded or incorporate, like what
Find
would you?
authenticity in your life, right? Found groundedness. Like,
Yeah.
what can someone do that they, without spending a lot of money,
Right.
and that they can incorporate into their day to day and say, hey, I am on the path of spiritual awakening, and here we go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what can you do?
I know you have a million tools in your toolkit.
You have many tools. Okay.
Or none, right? Because what can you do? Well, all right, listen, like
you're a coach. We want all the secrets. Give it to us. In 5 minutes.
I don't have the answers, first of all. As a coach, I would merely listen and reflect back to you the answers that you already have within you, right?
That's so true.
And I guess my answer to you and everybody listening is your answer lies within. I can't tell you what to do because I'm sorting through what's true and authentic to me. So I think my advice would be stay present. Know thyself, right? Like the answers will come. The intuition is there. The knowingness is there if you're willing to listen. And I feel like, again, easier said than done.
Yes.
Harder for some. But if you can listen to your heart, everybody has that feeling or that voice, like something is not right here.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to listen to that. And be willing to step into things that I always tell folks, okay, when you ask yourself that tough question, is there an answer that energizes you? That lifts you up? Wonderful. That you have a compass within. Move in that direction and trust that it's going to work out. If you ask yourself a question and the answer you're trying to force on yourself doesn't feel right, and there's tension there and friction, and I'm forcing myself to believe this, it doesn't feel, then maybe that's not the direction to move in. But even if you go that way, it's going to take you one step closer to where you're meant to be anyway. So again, trust yourself, know yourself, and this is unique to each person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know
it's so
if
beautiful.
That's how.
Long story short, if you want to know the answer, sign up for private coaching with Jason. I'll tell you what to do, because that's all I ever wanted, right? I want someone to tell me what to do so I can fix this, right? Instead of go on a self-discovery journey. So it helps,
together, right? We're walking alongside
exactly, and that's helpful to have someone walking beside you.
Let me show this, Jason Amarante. If you guys want to book a section or something, then check him out so you can book it. But anyway, I think it's so funny. Like lot of kids, a lot of young kids believing if they coasting the day, they will actually find the answer. But what your suggestion is, as long as you stay curious and want to, know about yourself, connect with yourself, you will always get your answer.
Yeah.
Right. So, that is so nice and beautifully. I mean, I especially got a lot of young people this day, you know,
Right.
they are in between. I call it they are in between era, that is industrial era to awareness era. So whatever their parent teach them or tell them, they just don't feel right. And
Yeah.
yet they are not being taught how to find a new way yet.
We're in
Right.
a time of shifting stories,
Yes.
the seasonal change.
Yeah.
Like at a macro level, that etch a sketch that I described for myself, I
Yeah.
feel like all of humanity and the earth
Yes.
itself and the cosmos is
Yeah.
at a place where man, we designed something beautiful.
Yeah.
Now it's
Mhm.
time to redesign something
Yeah.
else. And so
So
we are very much feeling that energy right now. Right.
yes, for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
then from we will keep you here forever, but we try not to. From what you're sharing with us, like throughout the hours, it's very clear to us. Like, don't be scared of the future that you're creating, and then don't be afraid to be curious about things and want to find the answer for it, and don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and etc. And like obviously, ice bath. Well, I will still think about it, but know. You have tried everything, and now who you are, you're rebuilt. That is, you are no longer one thing, you are everything.
Yeah.
And then that solid ground, I'm pretty sure is exactly what you want to share with our audience today. Like, you don't have to be one thing, you can be many things. You can root yourself very grounded, and then you can enjoy life, not just one angle, but every angle. When
Right.
one angle may not work, hey, you are still someone's son, someone's father, someone's beloved husband, and then you can still be a mentor, a friend, a colleague, or anything. You're
Yeah.
no longer tied to one identity, but you can be many.
Yeah, transcend, break free.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what you just shared is beautiful, Rowan, and it
yeah.
reminds me of the Rumi quote, like, we are a drop in the ocean and we are also the ocean in a drop. Like we are
Oh,
everything in one and
so
one of
nice.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice. So anyway, Jason, your one, your story is definitely wonderful, very inspiring. I think I can honestly say a lot of people can relate. So thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story. I'm pretty sure in the future I'm like Jason, I need you
Thank
to talk
you.
about it.
Yeah, let's stay in touch
Yeah,
and like,
for
yeah,
sure.
thank you for your service and what you're doing, not just for your
Mm,
kids, but the broader community and humanity as well. Like
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful gift to give.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing now, Jason.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you for, Sherry from Spark Whimsy for connecting us. You know how to match people, I tell ya. But anyway,
Thanks, Shirley.
so, well, thank you all. And I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Again, I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.